Well, it is 10 o'clock, and it is Lancaster Woodturners weekly coffee hour on Zoom. My name's John Kelsey. I'll be your moderator this morning. This is number 155 in the sequence, I believe. I'm a little behind in the video editing and posting, but I'll get caught up sometime soon. I'm seeing 31 on screen this morning and a bunch of hands raised. That feels good. Let's see, the upcoming events, I guess there's a Susquehanna meeting next Tuesday, and Lancaster Open Shop, I think, is this coming Saturday. And then the next Lancaster event is the club picnic, which has been moved back to July the 5th, the day after the 4th. The reason being, we found we had scheduled it on the same night as the Susquehanna meeting, and Lancaster and Susquehanna share about 20 or 25 members. So we like to do things that make it easy for everybody rather than making it hard if we possibly can. So we're only, we can drive to Harrisburg in about 40 minutes, and our club was formed out of the Harrisburg Club back in 2009 by Ray mostly. Let me see, raise hand if you want to show us some stuff today. I'd like to first spend a couple of minutes reviewing the AAW symposium last weekend, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I gotta hand it to them. They did a great job with what they were trying to do. They did set some parameters on it internally. They said, we're not going to try and do interactive, anything beyond chat. We're just going to give you live video and some sidebar videos in the in-between spaces and post the handouts, which they did all of that. And I understand there was a couple of audio problems in one or two demos. I didn't see any of those. I was very impressed with how they got it together. And I've heard some people crabbing about it, but I also noticed, we gotten used to how smooth it works when you do a thing like the Worldwide that Randy has on up there. Those guys are all doing Zooms from their home studios where you can set it up and test it and debug it and get it all working perfectly. AAW guys moved into a convention center with lathes and video equipment and ATEMs and amateurs running it we're only getting together for the first time without any practice. And on that background, I think they did a hell of a job, and I've been doing my best to praise them for it because I want them to do it even better next year. I think it's a real step forward. I also noticed that they had about 1,000 people there in person and about 1,000 people on the Zoom, which is a hell of a good turnout for the first time that they tried it. And I also found that we were 27 of those 1,000, so I think quite a few of you on screen were participating. So I'd be interested in what you guys thought.
I'd agree, John. I think they did a great job. The audio issues, I thought a lot of them were related to the headphone microphones they were using.
Yeah.
Every demonstrator struggled with it on their head. They were taping them on with masking tape. And also, we use a lapel mic, it's a good quality. We've had it for years. And with the face shield on, in fact, the sound is actually enhanced. And in this case, it was it really impaired the microphone. I thought the video quality was excellent. It came across really well. I even got it at the cottage on 3 megabits per second on Sunday morning.
I've been using these little Ceramonics mics. These are the wireless unit, clips onto my collar, does a great job and works pretty flawlessly. So I imagine that they're using older mics that somebody bought a couple of years ago, because those things that come around the year are really hard to manage. But like I say, I think those are quibbles. I think they did I still think they did a hell of a job. Anybody else?
All the grinders had aluminum oxide wheels that AAW purchased some years ago, so that's an indicator of there is a certain amount of lag, I guess, once they make a purchase.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I would love to see them with some real nice CBN. Although one of our club's tool guys insists that aluminum oxide is better. I don't happen to agree, but I'm not an expert, so I don't know. Anybody else with a comment on the AAW event?
Yeah, the one thing that stuck out to me was the masking tape they used for the cable that ran down to the little waist-mounted unit. And to me, it should have been under their dust cover, under their blue jacket, and it would not have needed any masking tape. But if I were there, I'd have suggested it But other than that, I'm like you, John. They did a heck of a job, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I did too. I actually had it playing in my shop, so I could actually try stuff in real time. I like that a lot. It was great.
I'm still watching them. You know, I've got my tick sheet to watch them all, and the login is basically the same.
Yeah.
So.
Anybody else? Kai, how
Yeah.
about you? You were John. Go ahead, Chilikian. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great that we could Zoom and not have to go to Kentucky. So that was a really great benefit. I'm really looking forward to catching all the other demonstrators. The one where there was an audio problem I was really interested in was Elizabeth Weber carving waves, and probably saw 10-15 minutes, was really getting interesting, and then the sound stopped. So that was a disappointment. I'm hoping that they're able to pull some audio from that and post that later on. I haven't really checked as yet, but I'm looking forward to that.
They posted it and it's stitched together so you wouldn't notice, but I think were not able to recover that audio, is what I understand. I did not watch that one, so I don't know.
Yeah, it was started out good. She seemed like
Kai, how about you? Kai, are you on here?
Yeah.
Kai from,
Hi. Yeah. I think it was a great job the camera people did. So you could see everything that was going on in the rooms. Audio sometimes, as you said, wasn't that good, so there is some scope for improvement. And I would have liked to feel a little bit more of the atmosphere of the whole symposium. So it was kind of restricted to the demos where you learned a lot, which is always interesting, of course. But I would have liked to see a little bit more of the other exhibitions that they didn't show. They showed 2 exhibitions on video, but not the others, at least not so far. And I would like to have, or it would have been nice to have a look at other things going on, like what was the atmosphere in the vendors hall, or what was the atmosphere at other places during the symposium, just to get a little bit of the feel of the whole thing, especially from being from Germany. I would have liked to see what our symposiums like in the States. But I think it's a good combination to have the Zoom part and the in-person part. So that is good. Yeah. So I think everything was all right. Maybe it would have been nice to have a booklet that gives some more information about the demonstrators as well. They had one only Zoom symposium that the AAW offered, and there was definitely more information in the booklet that came with the symposium than this time for the online crowd. And maybe it would have been nice to be able to talk to demonstrators. So if there was a session like Meet the Demonstrators or something like that, so people who were there live could go to the demonstrators after the demo and talk to them. But for the online audience, there was no possibility to get directly in contact with the audience, only via chat. Yeah, but in general, it was a good experience.
I agree with you.
Clearly they were learning as they went, and I know at one point in the beginning the chat was not working properly. I thought John, Dave, and I were the only 3 people on the chat, and what was really odd though is we were going through that, and then all of a sudden someone came and said, "Here's a question from the internet," and we were on the chat, and I didn't see any question on the internet, so I don't know where that question came from. So that was interesting to me, but.
They sorted that out by the second day.
Yeah, the real disappointment I had was I was listening to Kristen's talk, which was on adding sculptural elements to turnings, but her entire talk was on literally how she attaches them, and the real talk about how she makes them was in another talk which they did not broadcast to us. So the real part of what I really wanted to learn from her was not available. So, you know, you get to those things now, obviously they're going to make choices as to which they broadcast and which they don't. But obviously that was related enough that it was kind of sad not to have both pieces.
In all the rooms I was in, I put in the chat, once the chat started working on the second day, would you please pan the audience so we could see the people in the room? And they did that. And I want them to do a lot more of that. I wanted to see, like we tried to do at Mid-Atlantic, a live camera in the hallway, talking to whoever came by, and go to the instant gallery and go to the trade show and see the hubbub of the place and get that over. And I would also have liked to see a great big screen with those of us out there on Zoom available on that. So we have a visual presence in the room as well. But I think those are, you know, I hope they get some stuff like that going next year.
They did, to Kai, they did publish there's an app called Guidebook you can download from Play Store or whatever, and pull in the 2023 AAW Symposium data, and it will give, I think it pretty well reproduces everything that's in this thick book that they give all the participants. It'll have all the demonstration explanations, all the speakers, their bio, handouts, all that stuff that you were missing. I think you can get it on an app on your phone.
Okay, I'll have a look.
There's a handout tab on the website from the symposium as well, where the handouts of the demos that were broadcast are available there.
Yeah, I saw that one, but I didn't saw the handouts of the other people who were not in the Zoom conferences.
That's a thing that AAW has done very well for a long time. The symposium handbooks are a tremendous resource. They're fat. They make everybody give them an essay or a paper or information or pictures to put in there well in advance, and they always have done a fine job. And that's Sharon Berman in Cincinnati used to do it. I don't know who's doing it now.
I think you must have gotten an abbreviated version, Kai, because the full book, I think, is pretty much on that guidebook. If you go to the AAW website, you can get a direct link to download it.
Okay. I didn't go there. I went through the symposium website for the Zoom symposium, and they have, as John said, you can have a look at the handouts there, and there's a little bit of information about the demonstrators as well, but not the whole thing. So I have to go through the AAW website and then try to find guidebook 2023. Yeah. Okay.
John, perhaps the most amazing thing, which they can't ignore, is if that number is right, that they got 1,000 online attendees. That's a pretty amazing number to start with for the first try.
I think that tells you something about the future of symposiums. You're going to have a live audience or you don't have a symposium. But I think the Zoom audience could well come to dominate. I mean, I think it's, you know, for me, it was a better experience. I did not want to go to Louisville, and I want to stay in a hotel, and I didn't want to be sitting in the back of the room craning to see, or, you know, back 50 feet back from the screen.
Yeah. So I wanted to go to Louisville, and it was a great experience. Their concern and fear, I think, about the virtual folks termiting or undercutting the live attendees. I think that's not a realistic fear, because I think the folks that are going to come are the ones that are going to come no matter what. Because you got the vendor show, you got the live connection with friends that you've known over the years, and you got that whole experience. And coming back, I was carpooling with Emiliano Archibald, and we stopped by and visited with Chris Ramsey, and then we stopped off at the John C. Campbell Folk School. So there's other parts of that experience that you don't get live. But you pay for it.
I agree completely. But I also know we got a lot of members who could never afford to go also. So there's that too.
It's good to have both.
Yeah. And I wonder if they don't make more profit off of the Zoom, if you want to use that term. Doesn't cost them as much. You don't have to rent the hotel. I mean, they're renting it for the live, but if you just take the Zoom part, I think for them it's a financial benefit.
But if nobody goes live, you're going to ruin the vending.
You don't have a Zoom.
They're not going to be there.
Yeah, if there's no people there, there's no audience there live, it's a completely different thing. I think that the mix of it was really interesting to me that they had about 1,000 in person and 1,000 on Zoom.
Yeah.
They didn't have 1,000.
Have we beat this to death yet? Should we go on and look at what people want to show us this morning?
John, I have an overriding question connected to this. You guys have been in this for a long time. Where is the public interest in wood turning on a downslide or an upslide, or when did the big burst come that it started going up? It seems like everybody's interested in it. It's on YouTube and all that. What's your impressions?
Upslide.
Upslide
For the last 5 years or so.
Okay.
I kind of wonder because the AAW membership is only just barely 15,000, and I just don't. I haven't seen any significant growth in the 15 years that I've been a member. I think when I first started, maybe the membership was 13,500. So for a 15-year period, that's not a lot of growth.
Well, you got new people coming in and you got old people dying off. It's an aged demographic, so kind of hard to get robust growth when the majority of them are over 60.
Also, the old time wood turners that were from 1990s and 2000, and they don't know what an M1 chip is, and they really don't want to know. We had a hard time when we quit. The club quit sending out printed newsletters. Some of these guys don't even own a computer, number one, and they just plain don't want to know. And that was some of the serious wood turners. But anyway, I think we got a lot of people, and the technology is unbelievable.
Hey,
So I
John.
see that Rick Baker is just logged on here. Rick is on the board. I'd like to, Rick, you just got in. We've just been praising the effort of the symposium, and I wonder how it was from your point of view, from having to help manage it.
It was an effort. Getting it online wasn't easy, and we had some hiccups along the way, but we got it out there, and we recorded it both locally and on in the cloud. So we have good copies of what was done. So I'm happy with it. I think it worked out well. I'd like to hear from people that saw it.
Rick,
we had 27 there from our group, and we thought it was. Most of the comments on here today, I've been very happy with it.
Rick, for those that attended, when will we get a notification to watch the ones that were videoed?
They said to me a week or two.
Okay.
So that's all I know. I'm not a part of that segment of getting it done.
That's good. I just didn't want to miss that. Afraid I'd miss an email.
Yeah.
Well, you can review those. They're out there now. I've watched a few of them since that have been recorded.
Okay, the link's on the AAW website.
Just go back to the page that you got on to sign on originally, and you can click on them and get right to them.
We're not talking about virtual tickets. I'm talking about the attendees that also get a chance to watch those same virtual demos.
Yeah, Mike was there,
okay.
so his situation's a little different than those that were online. That they're the ones that they have to put together. I don't know what it is to make it happen.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on now. It's 20 after the hour. We're going to go and go to you guys with your hands up. Let's start with Duxbury. He's number one up there. Dux, what do you got today?
Wow, I never been number one.
Well, you are now.
Okay. Okay. I made a wall hanging. There we go. A spiral illusion.
Cool.
Anyway.
And what tool did you use to cut those grooves?
A narrow scraper or a parting tool. Actually, the board, this is put on a faceplate. The board is square, so you put the screws in the corners. And
so that was a square piece when you turned it, and then you sawed it after. Is that right?
Yes, you saw the screw holes off. When you're actually doing this one, this whole thing's hanging off center. So this is the center, and this is flying around it. I
Um,
actually had to cut the corners off because that was the limit of my lathe when these come around.
that's kind of scary.
I do a lot of scary things, John.
Well, I remember that Steve Hogman used to put things like that on back them up on a plywood disc, so there was no airplane propeller in there to get your hand caught in.
Well, this is actually screwed to a faceplate, a big disc, a 20-inch disc. Yes, yes.
Good. Yeah,
It's
that
still
makes it much
scary.
safer. That makes
And
it a lot safer.
one of the things I don't do anymore is put a counterweight on the other side, because I had the counterweight fly off and went through the wall, and that really messes things up. But
Which
and you had
side
to
did you
fix them.
turn first, Jim?
I think I did the back first. You're asking the hard stuff. I did the back first. And then this is actually dished out, because this is too thick. I come up about 1/4 of an inch. I do this on the side of the board. I come up about 1/4 of an inch, and that's the bottom of my first cut on this side. And then I figure I want 1/8 of an inch or something for these top ones. So I put the 1/8 of an inch. That gives me the amount I have to dish down here to turn this to get these big them out right.
Hey, Jim, what's back? You said your signature and the wall hangings on the side that I saw there, but you called the other side back. Which way faces you when you hang it on the wall?
This is the back, this is the front, hopefully.
Oh, okay,
Um,
that makes sense.
I just put a little thing on the end so you can hang it, but
Yeah.
I got some other stuff, we got time. I started making these chucks. I started making these chucks, and these have been a lot of fun. They've been known now as a duck's chuck. Anyway, didn't have a stop on it, so I could slide the jaws of the chuck grabbed on the top and bottom. And the original one didn't have a stop on it, so you could slide it both ways. When I put on the first one that I made, this is the first one. This has been through the mill. I put the stop on this side. And what happens is when you slide the chuck out here, you're grabbing on the solid side. So if you ever make one of these, make sure you put the stop on the side with the hole so that it's grabbing on the other side.
Great point.
Anyway, I've had a wonderful time doing, you could do this all your life. I mean, there's so much stuff. This is a box. It makes an interesting pattern too, because if you get the stripes right, you get the same colors inside and outside that kind of match. This is two centers, about 1/2 inch off center.
Very interesting.
This is a simple bottle stopper, 2 centers. And this is a little more complex one that 2 centers.
I got to tell you, you infected Barry Price with this idea, and he's been making those. And Barry's the best jig maker I know. So we'll see what comes back from that.
He calls me. We've talked back and forth 87 times. They think, yeah, Barry's really into this. The other one, I just finished this one. This is a 3 center. The more centers you do, the less pronounced it gets, the less detail you can see, but it adds interest. Wish my lighting was better. But anyway,
we can see good. Yeah.
And then I got one more. This is a 3 center.
Jim, did you use a chuck on all of those?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And I've done an article. In fact, it's going to come out in issue 385 of Woodturning magazine on how to make the chuck. But then I've done, oh man, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff. By making a bowl, if you make a bowl and put a tenon on that's 1 5/8 inches, you can index the bowl and turn off center bowls. Or you can put a vase in here, or you can put, the nice part of this is when you offset this, you move the center and you still have the tailstock center. So you can pinch anything between this. I mean, it can be 3 feet long. I don't think I'd do that, but 2 feet long, right? But anyway, you've still got a tailstock center to support it. You don't just have this thing flying around. It really works.
Jim,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? I need to see a video of you doing one of these, actually using. I haven't seen anybody using it. I'm not questioning it. I'm just saying I want to see somebody do it. So.
Well, you will. It'll come along.
Yeah, I think Barry's going to do one. A guy on World of Woodturning did one on a, I forget what he made. He made a bowl, I think, but he did a 3-center bowl, and that worked out pretty good. But these are a lot of fun. I've done 4 or 5 of these boxes, and you wouldn't want to make your living doing this, but it's a lot of fun to do.
I'm going to try one of those next myself.
Where
Thanks a lot,
are you going to
Doug.
put the magnets in that one?
No,
Oh, I'll figure it out. Don't worry.
I can say that those gigs do work, don't they, Jim?
Yeah, you got
Do
it.
work. I'm
Yeah,
back this week, folks. I'm back.
Don's been making these too.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to move along to Don right now.
Go.
We'll see what he's got. What do you
Go
got,
for it.
Don?
Well, last week, as you know, I was missing, and I made the week before. I told you about the bit of texturing I did and how they fit into a bowl or a box. So I made a box, and last week John brought up about the very fine beads on a box. And I thought I'd show you that one, John.
And how did you make those beads?
Right. In my hand now, I have just an ordinary scrap piece of wood, which has got beads of all different sizes on there. And those beads, I only use one of 3 tools. The first one, 3/8 spindle gouge. And that is the one, excuse me, I used on that box. Or I use a 1/2 quarter.
Hold it still. Stop waving it around. Hold it still.
Oh, there we are. That's what I'm looking for. And there's the angle opposed to this one, which is a 3/8 beading skew. And that's the only 3 tools I use on all of that work.
Hold that back up. Hold that back up again and hold it still.
Right,
hold it closer to your face. Bring it back to your face. Yeah.
The bit that you can see was all done with the 3/8 spindle gouge. And the bit you can see now was done with the skews.
Very, very nice. All right. I see everybody needs to practice.
And just to show you, there was another box that I made with just the bead on, with a piece to go in of that texturing.
Would you open the box so we can see how you made that the tenon as well?
That's just a scrap piece of wood that I made to get the pattern for my other box. But this one here.
Okay, now hold that. Okay, that's what I want to see. And what's the inside like? What does it do down inside? Is it rounded down in there or square?
It's square with a slight dip at the bottom.
Okay, so you didn't drill that, you turned it.
Yeah, I turned it, yes.
Questions for Don?
The last thing, just a little comical thing. The mouse turns and its cheese has a tail. but he will not come out.
That's
Now
pretty
you need
good,
to
Don.
build a trap for it. You need to build a trap in front of it yet, Don.
No, he's eaten too much cheese, Jim, and he won't come out.
All right.
So that's me from last week, but it was the fact I wanted to show the box with the texturing piece in.
Any questions for Don?
Don, I think I know the answer, but why don't you just texture the top lid of the box?
Because if you make a mistake on the texturing, you ruin the lid of the box. Plus the fact by doing it this way, I could put that one in the box.
Contrasting wood.
And then you've got contrasting woods, and then it's coloured as well, as opposed to just one that has been carboned in the little grooves, so dividing
is
the
that
texturing.
Is that central bead on the box body or on the lid?
Sorry, say that again, John.
Is the bead in the middle on the box body or is it on the lid?
It's on the body.
It's on the body. Because I know Mike makes that bead on the lid, and I've been trying that and I like it a lot.
On the lid instead. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
nice
I thought
box.
Hey Don, that insert that you're doing there, I'm interested, has anybody ever done like a carved insert there, or I mean something other than a turned insert?
No, I'm not much good at carving, so I've never tried it. The only other thing I have done is using the jig that Jim Dunsbury's made. I have made them where I've got off-center turning, so these rings all go round inside each other, which I showed you 2 weeks ago. And they go in the box lids as well. And that was using Jim Dunsbury's jig that he showed you just now. I hadn't tried that one before. So thanks very much, chaps. And that's brought me back up to speed. And I found out what was wrong with my computer last week.
Well, it's always good. Always
John,
good to see you, Don.
John, as Don was talking, I remembered if you go to the extras during the symposium and look at Carter and Sons, they introduced at the show a negative rate scraping beading tool in 3 sizes, I think it was, the smallest of which is an 1/8 inch. And I thought of you immediately. They if you look at that preview, you'll see it. I'm sure it'll be on their website ultimately.
I will look for that. And I bought a bunch of tool steel, so I'm gonna be making those. I'm not gonna buy any more of them.
Don and John.
Yeah.
Don and John, if you wanted to, you could make a top, embed a magnet underneath and make replaceable tops.
You could.
Yeah, you could do. Yeah.
Could do.
John, speaking of tops, I got one more thing. In the center of this top, there's interlocking rings.
That's exactly what I was talking about, Jim.
It's kind of, well,
but making it with 4 rings.
Only I did it in the top of the thing.
Yeah.
The way you did it is safer. This is through the whole top up doing this. Anyway, it's the top of the box.
Yeah.
There's no more questions. I'm going to move us along. Anybody with a question for either of these guys on this process? All right. Ziegler, you're up.
Thank you.
Ziegler, what do you got?
Well, last week, I kind of launched a half-hour discussion from everybody trying to help me figure out why my lathe might be vibrating. And I first wanted to thank everybody for all your suggestions and comments. And I went back to the lathe, and to be honest, I was a little embarrassed because all I did was I leveled the lathe, the beds, to make sure they were coplanar from side to side. And then I leveled the whole lathe just not that it needs to be level with the world, but I did. And then I took the tailstock off, and lo and behold, there's adjustments on the bottom that I could just spin the thing over a little bit and get the centers perfect. I hadn't taken it apart since I put it together, and I said, wow, well, so this isn't so complicated after all. And then after I got done with the Zoom, Bill Major called me up, and he was offering to come over with his laser to help me align the tailstock with the headstock, and I appreciated that, but it turns out we kind of live about an hour away. So after I leveled everything off, and the only way to test it was to turn something, and I had to turn, not I had to, but I was going to turn a couple of bowls for my sisters-in-law, 2 of them. So I showed this the other day at the meeting. So I turned this ambrosia bowl for one of them, and it didn't vibrate. I didn't have any problems with vibration. So that was sort of verification that my problem was not really...
Bring that back a second. What's your finish on that? That's a nice looking finish from here.
Almost everything I've done, John, has just been using the Beal system.
You're just buffing and waxing.
Just buffed and waxed it. I mean, I did use some paste on it before I took it off the lathe, just to get the final scratches out to the extent that I could. And then I used the Beal system. So I guess it's about, I didn't measure it, maybe 7.5 inches in diameter, something like that. It was dry as a bone, but it turned well. And then the other one I made was a bit different. It turns out that the defects inside look somewhat like a fish, but same size, just different piece of ambrosia, same finish. And then I made Patty a Paduke bowl for jewelry or whatever. So they were just kind of verifications that I had solved my vibration problem.
John, just a suggestion, take one of your next bowls and put an actual, say, an oil finish on it, then, you know, tongue oil, Minwax, antique oil or something, and then buff it after it cures, and then set 2 of them, one with just the Beal and one with a finish, set them aside on a shelf and come back and look at them in 6 months.
Okay. So
I think you're going to find that wax is not I think you're going to find out that 6 months from now that the wax is not going to, just the wax is not going to look as good.
Okay.
Totally agree.
I will do that. Let me just, John, can I just add one thing? Rick Atkins called me up the other day because he wanted me to bring to pick up his bowl to take to the meeting, which I didn't want to do because I didn't want to mess it up. But as we were talking, I was in the middle of one of these bowls, and I said, Rick, it seems like when I got done with my bowl, I actually had the nicest turning that I've done so far. No scratches to speak of, but I still had to sand it a little bit. And when I sanded it, I actually created some tear out sanding. And so he gave me some suggestions, but I also went online, and of course, one of them I always look at is Mike Peace's videos. So I just wanted to thank Mike for his productions of his videos, because I'm going back out after I get done here and turn something for my nephew, and I'll take your suggestions to heart, and I'll put some finish on it as well.
Could I make a comment? Just going back to Jim Duxbury's lids and boxes, that I thought one of the things that people sometimes overlook is it's nice to have a surprise in your finishing which somebody isn't expecting. So seeing something on the inside of a lid turned specifically makes it a really nice little surprise aha moment. So
yes, I agree with that. Yeah. Okay, let's see. I see Ron Sheehan has popped. Mike, I'm going to come to you and Bowman in a sec, but Ron Sheehan has popped up, and I want to see. We haven't heard from Ron in a while, so Ron, what do you have today?
Yeah, just a comment. I haven't been watching the show for a while. I've been building furniture for the last 2.5 or 3 months. But John made a comment there about vibration on his lathe. That's one thing, but he mentioned leveling the lathe. Well, maybe that's not so important. Well, I have a Powermatic, and when I first got it, I was talking to somebody about it. Well, they had a Powermatic, and the points didn't line up. There's no adjustment to line up the tailstock with the headstock. But he said they leveled it, and that trued it up. It's very critical to level your lathes. Even that big heavy cast iron bed on that Powermatic will twist if it's not level. So you really need to level it sideways and long ways to make sure they're true.
I think he's right. Yeah.
But I actually did turn a bowl last week. It's the first time in about 3 months that I've done any turning.
Well, show us. You got it with you?
I don't have it with me here now. I'll bring it up next week.
Okay. Bring it up next week.
I don't have any finished on it yet.
Okay. Thanks,
Anyway,
Ron.
good to get back up here again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Mike Peace, what do you have today?
Nothing especially impressive. I had a house guest went to the symposium together, Emiliano, and he wanted to learn about a texturing tool we got back. I don't know if you can see those designs, but I decided I'd make a little sample board of the different style rosettes, and of course there's no finish on these yet. They haven't been glued in, so you can't see detail, but the idea of a sample board, and then with documentation as to how did I create that particular design, because a lot of these texturing tools, there's some overlap, and it's not, I can't look at some of them and tell which tool I used or remember how I used it. So I'll have some put together some documentation. And then the one
wait a minute. I was just gonna ask you, could you tell us how you made all those? What kind of tools were you using?
Well, I used the Sorby micro spiraling and texturing system. So I would do one with the large texturing wheel, attempt one with a small texturing wheel, with a couple of different approaches. Use one with the spiraling wheel. Then I used a couple of Wagner tools. So I've got those basically 3 different tools: the Wagner with different size teeth, the Sorby with the texturing wheel, and then 2 different size teeth on their spiraling tool. So those are the three combinations.
Mike, is that that's all end grain, right? It's not side grain.
Yeah, no, that's all end grain. It probably could have been side grain, but I would have gotten some tear out. So for this, it's easier to do end grain, because you can have that cylinder and knock one out. If you don't like it, part it, smooth it off, and try again. The other thing, I was working on a video on harvesting small burl scraps yesterday, and I hit this piece of cherry burl that looked kind of gnarly, and I thought, well, there's not a whole lot of figure, but there was a lot of ants in it, so I wound up turning an egg. Yeah, so it's kind of funky looking. That's all I got.
Hey, nice to hear from you. Anything else you want to say about the symposium? You were there.
It was great. I had a lot of fun. The venue, I've been to several of these, and I think this was one of the nicer venues in that all of the rooms, there was a waiting area outside the instant gallery and the trade show where people gathered when they come in the front door. And then you either go left or right, not very far, to the demonstration room. So you didn't have, it was very clear where everything was, with the banquet room upstairs. And I know the one in Atlanta was so convoluted with multiple floors and trying to find a particular demo room. And, you'd have vendors complaining that somebody would come out of a rotation and not make it back to the vendor area. So this was a nice venue.
And I've been in some of them where the hike is so far, I'm exhausted by the time I get there.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
My God.
Raleigh too. I see interesting comments here from Rich Colvin. Rich, you want to talk for a minute about what your comments here on the number of young people you saw at the show?
Yeah, I was in the vendor area, and I saw a number of young people come through, and I mean people in their 20s and 30s, but I even saw some kids come through, and I saw a number of families come through. So it really, I mean, certainly there were a lot of old gray-headed people like us, but there there were a lot of other people who were not, and there seemed to be a lot of interest, and it was pleasing to me. And I think the vendor area was very vibrant. It was quite active.
What were you vending?
So I was there with the OTI, which is Ornamental Turners, as a virtual club in the AAW. And we were just demonstrating what ornamental turning is to AAW members. So we weren't selling anything. We had a rose engine there to show people what you can do. And we had a lot of interest there, but we were right across from Carl Jacobson. You know, he bought the business from the Ruth Niles. So we were right across the way from him and Vic Mark. And I found the vendor area seemed to be laid out well for traffic instead of, it wasn't the case like I saw in some of these, I think in Pittsburgh was that way, where, you know, by the time you got to the back row, who knew what you were seeing anymore? It was very much different here. And indeed on the back row, that's where Stuart Batty was, and he was doing a lot of presentations back there with his tools and showing people what you could do with them. So, and Trent Bosch was on the back row. So they seemed to lay it out well to encourage you to go through the entire vendor area.
And all the vendors I spoke with were pleased with the sales. It wasn't necessarily the best, but they were all happy and seemed to have a good trade show.
Oh, I want to notice too that Jeff Hankinson's on here this morning. Jeff came to the Lancaster Club meeting on Tuesday, and with a little video of how he converted a metal lathe to do ornamental turning that I found really interesting. So Jeff, do you want to talk to that for a second?
Well, I've been doing some ornamental work on my CNC machine and figured out different ways of doing that. And after looking at the way Rich Colvin and his group were going with their MDF rose engine, I thought, well, I want to get a little metal lathe and make some more tools. And I decided to convert that into an adapted ornamental lathe, so I could use it both ways, both as an ornamental piece, and I don't know anything about turning metal, so it was a good opportunity to keep using it as a metal lathe. And it's produced some actually very, very nice results. Of course, it's the ornamental part is computer controlled using the terrific program written by Bill Ooms quite a number of years ago, but that basically encapsulates a huge percentage of what you can do in ornamental turning. And my little lathe is it's a 10 by 22, and I use for now I use a 800-watt spindle directly on the wood. Typically, the ornamental turners create things called cutting frames, which extend the cutting tool away from the drive, so you can reach inside bowls or dishes and things like that. And I've made a couple of those. I just haven't got around to using them yet, but it's just a ton of fun. I showed you a piece at the Lancaster meeting, John, that for good reasons I can't show today. That, you know, that thing cut in about half an hour, and it's compared to, you know, I don't like mathematics particularly, and Bill Ooms' program just works out all that stuff. All you got to do is figure out the spacing and how to cut, and his program will show it up as to what you're going to get. So I find it a very easy way of getting into ornamental turning. It produces what I want, which is an embellishment on a bowl or a box or a top or, you know, whatever. And for a, you know, a total investment of probably under $4,000. So in American dollars, that's probably about $29.95. $100 is so weak. But you know, that's sort of where I was going with my CNC work, was trying to embellish stuff, and it turns out to be actually very easy to do on this little metal lathe. So I posted that link on the Lancaster site. I can put it up here if you want, to that little video.
Can you bring that up?
Oh,
Or
I
post
don't think I
post a
can
link.
play the video over my.
No, it won't work. Post a link in the chat though, so the guys who are interested in that can get it out of the chat.
Yeah, I'll put it on the
It is
chat.
real good. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Bowman, it's your turn. We've been freezing you out for a little while. What do you got to show us today?
Well, first I want to start by thanking everybody who comes here because, John, this has been the highlight of my life ever since you started this. And I need to thank a bunch of guys, but Mike Peace, I'm going to show a piece that it was inspired by you. Let me begin my share, and then we can talk about it. So this is catalpa, and my first round, I burned the outside. It ended, I didn't have liming wax, so I ended up with just black outside. But this one, I kept burning and burning. Mike, I did it about 3 or 4 times. And finally I said, I'm going to be happy with this. And I sanded her down a little bit and put some liming wax on. And I was very pleased with the final result. So thank you, Mike. By the way, I want why I have my attention on Mike a second. You know, I think the AAW doesn't really indicate, membership doesn't really indicate the total interest in it. It took me many years of turning to become acquainted with AAW, partly because of you guys. And so I wonder if there's not other ones. Doug, you get credit for this. He cleaned out his shop the other week, and I happened to stop by, and he said, Jim, these blanks are for you, and threw me a bunch. And he had dug he thinks maybe Norway maple. Doug had done the hard work on this blank. He had actually rounded it and had dug the bark inclusion out completely. He said, Jim, this is perfect one for epoxy pour. So I did it. And this is the shape I came up with. And the colors, transparent green, pleased me pretty well. I want to show.
I want to praise the transparent green. It's a whole lot better than the blue we usually see.
I haven't used blue for a long time, John, because I hear you sitting on my shoulder going, not blue again, damn it. So Doug, because the way it was, and I had to fill it. Anyways, I got a nice layer of epoxy on the bottom, which was unusual. It was not intended, but I love the art of it. So this is a persimmon. This is a 12 by 5 inch bowl turned from a persimmon log, basically. You can see the heartwood. I intentionally tried to place it so I get some of that. The heartwood is really small in persimmon, and it was very green and twisted like crazy, but I left it on the chuck so I could flatten the bottom. And then the top had really buckled up, and I shaved a little bit off there. But so this started out as a 46-pound, 5 inch circle, about 6-8 inches deep. And I struggled to put it on my poor lathe, and the DVR said, what the heck are you doing? Anyways, I cored it out a couple times and then ended up with this, and been kind of pleased. It was an interesting adventure. This is kind of what the interior, I still think it's a little green. I thought I had sanded it back. I ended up getting myself an oscillating 3-inch air sander, and to do this one particularly, and I had sanded it pretty white along the edge, but after I oiled it the next time I come back, I ended up saying, well, it is what it is. So that's been the kind of one other. I don't know if I showed this one or not. This is a typical Bowman funnel thing. Let me see if I can get to show you the bottom. I think this is maple. I put London plain in the foot of it, and I tight fitted it, and then to make it even, I used black. What did I use? Black CA glue, and burned a ring on the bottom. Kind of fun. So yeah, that's been what I've been working on. here is the Mike. Here's the one that I didn't have liming wax and ended up with black all over. But yeah, I've been having fun with catalpa actually. So let me.
Jim, how long did it take you to make that funnel repair?
I don't keep track of.
Compared to turning a new bowl, I guess is my question.
Oh, it's that's not the question. The question is what can I make from it? I don't need a perfect bowl. I found the art of that one better than if I'm going to be able to turn a nice bowl out of that chunk of wood.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously it taught me some work, Mike. I had to learn to trim a nice tight fit, and got a lot of chisel work on it.
Did it take you as long or longer than it did to turn the original bowl is the question.
Well, in that case there, that was a coring mistake. That's how I.
You're not answering the questions, Jim.
What
Mike,
do you want to know? That's the question.
Mike, he is answering the question. He's just not answering it directly. He's trying to say, yeah, it took a whole lot longer to do the funnel than it would have taken to do a new bowl, but he didn't want to do a new bowl. He wanted to fix the funnel.
Yeah.
Hey, and
You can't, sometimes you just have to let the wood win.
No, sometimes the wind talks to you. You guys talk about the wood talking to you. Sometimes it talks to me and I have to do something different. Honestly, I enjoy that stuff. Sorry, I'm not a production turner. I'm not selling this stuff. I may have to because the wife is starting to say I'm getting way too many bowls in the house. But
you make really big funnels, that's for sure.
Thank you.
It's not just a hole through the bottom. That's the whole damn thing.
Where did the idea? Why did you call it funnel?
No, that maybe isn't a funnel. It's more a picture frame. You should have put a picture in the middle of that. You'd have had it made.
Thanks, Jim.
I'm with Mike. Throw the damn thing out and make another bowl.
Well, did I show you guys one where I poured epoxy in the bottom when I cored through the bottom?
Oh.
Boy, that turned out to be. I got a lot of nice comments on that one. So,
was that big enough? Was that big enough to be a toilet seat?
Oh, geez. You guys are so complimentary. I'm glad I can be the blunt of your sarcasm. So
I have a nice funnel I keep sandpaper in. It works great. Kai, have you got like a 1-minute comment, or are we going to save you for another week?
Yeah, I just have a short technical comment on Zoom. The version of Zoom that you use at the moment is a little bit different from the basic version our club pays for in Germany. And it has got two nice features I found in the chat. So if you click on the chat, at the very bottom of the column, there is start on the left hand side with a T and a pencil, and then there is kind of a square with a plus. And if you click on this one, you can take a screenshot directly out of Zoom and store that. So I didn't know that exists. And then right next to it, if you want to share a file from your computer using the chat, you can do it in this version. In the version that we use, we have to go to Dropbox or Microsoft Drive or something. But with your version, you can share a file directly from your computer that is stored on your computer and put it into the chat. So these are two functions that I've found and like a lot, but I guess we don't pay enough to have these functions with our Zoom version in Germany. But here with yours, it's possible and everyone can use it.
If you click the ellipsis, the 3 dots, you can also do a save chat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's really a good one too.
Now, I don't know whether that's peculiar to Zoom in general or the version we use. I participate with Alan Zenright in the Lucid group, where he's put together a consortium of 10 users so we can get a business license. So we each pay, I think it's $300 a year for it. So we have a higher resolution in the recordings, and we have maybe some other extra features that are not ordinarily available. Because that's the business license is, it's like it's like $2,500. You get 10 seats, but divide it up among 10 clubs and you got it. So that's how we're doing that.
Yeah, so that must be the difference, because we just pay for the basic license.
Yeah.
That's around $170 or something like that.
Yeah. You might get together with another 9 clubs and do the same thing. You could talk to Zenrite at the Lucid Technology Group and learn more about that.
Yeah, that's a good tip. So, but for us, it's possible to use it, and I found it really interesting that we have that option. Okay,
if you hit the capture, the second one, it freezes your frame for a while, and if you want to see the live speaker, you got to click out and say cancel or capture. So
that's right.
That has something to do with your bandwidth as you're on your setup as well. And it is after 11 o'clock. So I'm just going to say thank you all for another very fascinating hour on Zoom. And we will, of course, see you again next week. I got a bunch of comments in the chat saying how much people enjoy this. Well, I got to tell you, I enjoy it too. It's the highlight of my week too. So we'll see you all next week, guys.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.